Okay, so this is a response video to Veterans Politics UK. Now, I did a video yesterday to Veterans Politics UK, and in the meantime of making the video and waking up this morning, I've been sent a message via Facebook by Veterans Politics UK. So I want to scrap that video and I want to respond to this message, because we've gotten to the point where they're just insisting on inserting straw man fallacies into actual reality, or making up their own version of reality and attacking that one, or just getting at a square peg and insisting it squeezes through a round hole when it doesn't. Now, if you don't know what Veterans Politics UK is, then it's not how it says on the tin. How it says on the tin is that it's a page for veterans who happen to be interested in politics. It's a politically neutral name, isn't it? Veterans Politics UK. But it's not. It has a political agenda. And its political agenda is a pro-carbon, pro-Labour, pro-momentum, anti-Brexit, anti-Rees-Mogg, anti-Blairite, circle-jerking wank tank. And it's run by a couple of snowflakes. Now, if you give an opposing opinion to anything which they state, you're just going to receive a massive amount of abuse. And it's that sort of abuse to sort of avoid dissent. You know, either claiming that you're in a cult. A Tory cult member is probably their most famous ad hominem attack. Or just claiming that you're the troll and they don't have to speak to you because you're the troll, or they don't have to speak to you because you've been so brainwashed and so marinated in a cult that there's no possible chance that they can change your mind. So it's just a waste of time whatsoever speaking to you. So, which I find very funny, because if we look at the 4 characteristics for a cult, they are compliance with a group, dependence on a leader, devaluing the outsider, and avoiding dissent. Now, by claiming that everyone who disagrees with them is a Tory cult member, they're committing the last 2 there. They're devaluing the outsider and avoiding dissent by using that ad hominem attack to not get into a discussion. Now, they're claiming that I don't get into discussions, but I'm more than willing to do that. And that's why I'm trying to make this video here, in order to open discussions up. The other thing is, you don't really have to participate in any conversations with them to realise that they're actually like this. Every single post which they actually post is Tory cult member, Brexit Britain. You know, look at this privileged dickhead. That sort of behaviour. So don't take my word for it. Actually go on the page and actually look at the sort of people I'm dealing with. But anyway, I want to go through this message right now and point out the straw man fallacies and just point out where they're absolutely wrong. So I do that now. Billy Bones, this is another admin here. I've addressed you many times in our page, and frankly, it's like banging my head against a brick wall. Yeah, I know the feeling, mate. It's the same argument with you over and over again, and frankly, I'm bored with it. Okay, so sometimes you've got to stick to your guns when someone's doubling down. And especially when they're doubling down on personal attacks, and especially when they're doubling down on them personal attacks which are created in order to avoid dissent. Now, if we look at this response here, is this the sort of response which encourages open dialogue? No, of course it's not. It's that sort of response which encourages one person to stick to his guns and the other person to double down. And when you get situations like this, it is going to be the same old arguments and the same old plateaus over and over and over again. But that's not my fault, that's your fault. So deal with it.
You use the same platitudes over and over again. None of us are perfect, but your constant effort to put us down is tiresome. Half the time, you make no sense at all.
Okay, so I get this quite a lot on this page, and I get the feeling that it's to avoid the argument altogether, because it's always after I give a little bit of reasoning or a little bit of evidence to why I think the way that I think, that I get this sort of response. Either you've made no sense, you need an education, who's giving you your education because you need your money back, or you've just shown your ignorance with that statement. Responses sort of like that. Now, I got one quite recently after stating that if Corbyn was pro the working class, he'd be against increasing the minimum wage, and he'd be against increasing the minimum wage because when you increase the minimum wage, you decrease the number of jobs at the bottom, so you decrease the number of working class jobs and you increase the number of middle class jobs. Now, I got this sort of response after making this statement. Now, what they could have done is just ask me for evidence, and I would have shown him. I would have gave him the Newmark and Walsh report in which I got that from, or the economic letter, which gives a brief highlight of the Newmark and Walsh report, which I will put in a link below this video. But I didn't get that. I just got this sort of response. So I do believe that I'm actually making sense, and it's just that they're too scared to take the information on board which I've given them.
So here's the deal: either take part in the discussion and change the record from time to time.
Right, okay, so I'm always willing to get into discussions. That's why I run this Minds page, and during my time running this Minds page, I have been able to get into a few civil discussions, but that's not what you're really interested in. You're just interested in giving out claims and claiming that a claim is evidence. It's not. And when someone disagrees with your claim, just throwing an ad hominem attack. Now, I've given an example of this before, but I'm going to give another example now. So, it's not me, it's you.
Or, if you hate us so much, then go away and stay away. No one is making you stay, so if you want to stay, then stop telling us that we can't be veterans because we don't conform to your vision of how veterans should think and who they should vote for.
So I have used the words fake veterans in order to describe them, but I've always phrased it as this is why I believe it to be so, or this is my reasoning why I believe it to be so. The key words there are reasoning and belief. This keeps it open that they could actually be veterans, and I don't actually know for definite that they were fake veterans. Now, they seem to know the lingo, so I'm more than willing to believe that they could actually be veterans now. But on the first look, I just found it completely unbelievable because people like this are a small infinitesimal part of the veterans community. I've never actually met any veterans which are snowflakes in my time, and certain members of my family are veterans, and the majority of my work colleagues when I was working in security were veterans, and none of them were actually snowflakes or held this political ideology. And when looking at the statistics of how veterans vote and stuff like that, they do seem to be in the minority. Now, I've also stated that I don't actually care whether they're veterans or not, because to be a small infinitesimal part of the veterans community and to use the reputation which our veterans have built in order to push your political agenda and to create a political safe space, I just think's wrong. It's a bit like me creating a group for ex-King's College London students for politics and then being very hostile towards anyone who's not a libertarian. That would be wrong. Now, if I was to create a ex-student King's College London Libertarian Society page, then that would be fine. But to create a page which looks like a politically neutral page and then to be very hostile towards people who hold a different political agenda, I just think's wrong.
Like it or not, we are veterans, and we do not conform to your ideal of a veteran. Do not tell us who we are or who we vote for. We have had veterans come here and attack us. They've reported us, abused us, and some quietly crawled back to where they came from. Others sadly had to be banned.
Right, okay, so what a total lie. And I don't believe for one bit that it's these veterans which have come onto your site that have strucken First Blood. Because First Blood has been strucken before they even know that this page exists. And it's also created an anglerfish sort of situation, which we'll go into a bit later. But yeah, First Blood has been strucken because what you've done is created a politically neutral name which is not politically neutral. So you've sort of stolen their identity because they do happen to be veterans who are interested in politics. And you're using the reputation which they have to push a political agenda. So you're using their identity to push a political agenda that they're not a part of. Now, I said that it's created an anglerfish sort of situation because by creating a politically neutral sounding name, what you've done, you've created a warm, illuminous, homely glow. So when these veterans which fall for the bait and go towards this warm, luminescent glow, get this unwelcoming set of teeth, they're going to defend themselves, and they are unwelcome because we can see this on your about section. If you're a flag waving, loyal to the establishment veteran, still serving type, or an establishment card carrying civvy, then this page isn't for you. Please scroll on. Well, why aren't they welcome? If you're creating a politically neutral sounding name and you're using their identity to push the page, they should be welcome. And can you not see why these veterans might defend themselves in this sort of situation?
But they were not able to change reality, and you won't be able to either.
Yeah, but you're trying to change reality here because they don't have a problem with you being veterans. What they have a problem with is you stealing their identity to push a political agenda.
We are veterans, so either get your head around the idea we can be both veterans and left-leaning politically.
So I never claimed that you couldn't be a veteran and politically left-leaning. What I claimed is that I find it very unlikely that you can get a whole group of admin which happen to be snowflakes and so close-minded. And I just have my elements of doubt because these sort of people I find, from my anecdotal experiences, rare in the armed forces. Now, I've also stated that I don't care because I still believe it's wrong to take the identity of veterans on the whole to push a political agenda, which the majority of veterans don't subscribe to, and to push an attitude which most veterans don't subscribe to as well. That's what I find wrong, and that's what the other veterans have found wrong as well, which have come onto your page and told you that they find it wrong.
And live with it, or do one before we send you packing ourselves. While we may not agree with you, we are happy for you to stay, but will not put up with the constant attack over our legitimacy as veterans. You soon start crying foul when we return fire.
Right, so I do not cry foul whatsoever when I receive abuse from you because I do not care. What I care about is obtaining the truth. And sometimes I've actually soaked up the ad hominem attack in order to try and steer it back onto the situation in hand. So I've admitted that I'm a fickle, I've admitted that I'm uneducated, and I've just said statements like, yeah, I am uneducated, but how does this stop this situation or stop my reasoning being untrue? Now, if we take this situation, it's quite clearly that it's you who has struck in first blood. And if we look at your post again, it's quite clearly that you struck in first blood here. So if you're not willing to receive it, don't give it.
Yet you very happy fire at us. So enough please. Let's debate the subject matter of each post.
So how do I do this? Because every single time I make a statement or answer one of your statements, I just get a personal attack, or you just state that I've said something which I've not said, and I constantly have to go, look, this is a straw man fallacy. So the personal attacks are to avoid dissent, so it's either calling me a Tory cult member and you can't possibly speak to me because I've been so brainwashed in this cult that there's just no speaking to me anymore, even though I'm not a Tory. Either calling me a troll without actually giving me a definition of what a troll is, even though I've asked a innumerable amount of times. Either saying that I'm so stripped away from reality you can't possibly speak to me. And when someone's just avoiding dissent like this, when someone's just avoiding an opposing opinion on the subject matter on hand, you cannot speak about the subject matter on hand. So it's a two-way street, and I'm walking right down that street, and it's just you who's refusing to do that. So yet again, it's not me, it's you.
And not our veteran status. You have the choice to behave like a grown-up now, but keep this nonsense going and we take that choice away and send you packing. I hope that's clear enough for you to understand.
So I think I'm being given the choice between either play on an unlevel playing field or be banned. If that's a choice, I choose to be banned because I believe it's an unlevel playing field, because it seems to be like you're allowed to throw as many personal attacks as you want, but you don't want any to be received. And I'm not allowed to give any back to you. Now, it's called the golden rule. If you want to be treated in a civilized manner, then you've got to treat other people in a civilized manner as well. But in the interest of a civil debate, let's say, I'm willing to do a live stream. So I'm sending you an invitation to a live stream. Now, I've never done a live stream before because first, I don't think my Minds page is big enough, and two, I have autism with a stutter, so I feel very uncomfortable actually doing it, and I find it difficult actually speaking to a camera, never mind talking to a person and keeping eye contact with them at all times. Now, I'm willing to do this live stream because I just want to prove that I am willing to debate, and I always have been.